Introducing the new Samsung Galaxy A16 5G and the brand new Motorola Moto G35 5G. Are these contenders worth considering, or are they just here to fill out the brand's lineups? We'll take a deep dive into their design, screen, performance, cameras, and battery to find out. Hey, I'm Olive, your host here at Versus.com, and let me tell you, 4 gigs of RAM in 2024 might not be the deal breaker you think it is. Starting with the Galaxy A16, we're greeted with a design that's familiar from other Galaxy devices and almost identical to last year's Galaxy A15. It features a matte flat plastic frame and a shiny flat plastic back, which is unfortunately very prone to smudges. On the right side, there's a protruding, rounded island that houses the power and volume buttons. While it is visually appealing, it can sometimes be tricky to quickly locate the power button since it sits flush, unlike the volume button. It weighs 197 grams and comes with a fairly basic IP54 rating, which offers protection against splashes and minor dust exposure. It comes in blue, black, light gray, gold, and light green. The Motorola Moto G35 is also quite similar to its predecessor, the Moto G34. This year, however, it features a smoother transition for the camera bump into the back panel. It features a matte plastic semi-flat frame and a matte flat plastic back. Compared to the Galaxy, it's slightly slimmer, and the rounder edges also make it more comfortable to hold. It weighs 189 grams and features only a water-repellent design with no official IP certification. It comes in midnight black, leaf green, and guava red, with the last 2 options featuring a vegan leather back panel for an added touch of style. Both phones feature a fingerprint reader built into the power button. However, a key difference between them is the Galaxy's use of a virtual proximity sensor, which is known to be somewhat reliable compared to Motorola's dedicated proximity sensor. The Galaxy A16 definitely looks more premium with its design, even though it's still made of plastic. On the other hand, the Motorola is noticeably more comfortable to hold, and the colors with the vegan leather back add a ton of grip. Moving on to the displays, the Galaxy A16 has a 6.2-inch screen, while the Moto G35 is just a tiny bit bigger at 6.72 inches. The Galaxy comes with a Super AMOLED screen, which is great to see in this price range, while the Moto sticks with an IPS display. Here you can see how AMOLED displays show true blacks, while on IPS displays, blacks appear gray due to the backlighting. Both phones have full HD+ resolution and similar pixel density. When it comes to refresh rates, the Galaxy goes up to 90 Hz, while the Moto has a maximum of 120 Hz. Samsung doesn't mention any glass protection for the Galaxy A16, while the Moto G35 comes with Corning Gorilla Glass 3. For peak brightness in our test, the Galaxy A16 reached 800 nits, while the Motorola peaked at around 1036 nits. While the Galaxy can brag about its AMOLED screen, it doesn't support any HDR content. On the other hand, the Moto supports HDR10 and HDR10+, which is a really nice addition at this price point. However, it does tend to lag when streaming HDR content at resolutions higher than 2K. On the downsides, the Galaxy's teardrop notch and large bottom bezel give it an outdated look for 2024. Meanwhile, a frustrating aspect of Motorola's display is its wake display feature. It basically allows you to wake the screen with a single tap, but you can't unlock it immediately with another tap. Instead, you have to wait for the screen to turn off before tapping twice to access the lock screen. Additionally, both screens suffer from narrow viewing angles when tilted slightly, the Galaxy developing a blue tint and the Motorola's display appearing darker. Personally, we'd go with Motorola's screen even though it is IPS because of its HDR support and higher peak brightness. By the way, can you guess which phones originally featured these 2 wallpapers in our phones? Drop your guesses in the comments. The Galaxy A16 comes with only 1 speaker at the bottom, while the Motorola has 2 speakers for stereo audio and also comes with Dolby Atmos certification. Another feature in the Motorola that we see less and less nowadays is the inclusion of a 3.5 jack at the bottom of the phone. For audio quality, you can check out a short sample next. Follow you to carry on. In our testing, while far from perfect, the Motorola outperformed the Galaxy with slightly better bass and treble. That said, neither of these phones is going to win any audio contests. Now let's head out and see how these cameras perform. We'll be giving scores to the photos with the maximum score depending on the number of devices in the comparison. For this comparison, that means that the maximum score is 2. Both phones come equipped with 50 megapixel sensors for their main cameras. In this first set, the Galaxy does a better job capturing more true-to-life colors while also preserving plenty of detail in my coat, something the Motorola struggles with. Indoors, the story is pretty similar. The Galaxy nails a more realistic white balance, while Motorola once again leans too heavily into magenta undertones.
So moving on to some ultra-wide examples. Ultra-wide is great for capturing more of the scenery in your photos.
For ultra-wide, the Galaxy has a 5 megapixel sensor, while Motorola steps it up with an 8 megapixel one. Outdoors, the win goes to the Motorola, as it delivers a more realistic exposure. The Galaxy, on the other hand, brightens the scene a bit too much, making it look less natural. Indoors, while the Motorola still leans towards magenta tones as before, it actually handles the neon sign illumination the best in this set. Samsung, on the other hand, oversaturates the entire scene.
Let's take a look at portrait mode and see which one of these gives us the most realistic looking bokeh while still keeping details.
Here, neither phone does a great job with edge detection. However, Samsung provides the most faithful rendition of the scene, while the Motorola overdoes it with too much artificial bokeh and contrast. Indoors, it's even more noticeable how the Motorola overboosts the saturation and contrast, making me look unnaturally red. The Galaxy A16 definitely offers a more natural result.
Having nice video quality is crucial in a smartphone, so let's test out some videos and see which one performs better.
Video is another clear win for the Galaxy. Although it can only record in 1080p at 30 FPS, it delivers a decent video, though the highlights are significantly overblown. The Motorola can record it up to 4K at 30 FPS, but the video is completely shaky because stabilization is off by default. With stabilization on, things don't get much better, and we also get a crop. On ultra-wide, while far from perfect, the Galaxy still does a better job. That said, it tries to compensate for dark areas by lifting the shadows too much. Motorola, meanwhile, is all over the place with its white balance and exposure.
Stabilization is crucial for capturing nice, buttery smooth content. Let's see which one does it better.
When it comes to stabilization, well, I think you can see for yourselves which one does a better job. Motorola's video, for some reason, has stabilization turned off by default. Seriously, who thought that was a good idea? With stabilization turned on for the Motorola, the video doesn't improve much, to be honest, as it relies solely on electronic image stabilization. The Galaxy still manages to deliver a noticeably better video overall.
Moving on to the front cameras. Which one of these is gonna make me look better? Let's take some selfies.
In the front, the Galaxy features a 13 megapixel lens, while the Moto G steps it up with a 16 megapixel one. The skin tones on the Galaxy are definitely more true to life compared to the Motorola's. Plus, the Galaxy also provides better natural bokeh. Indoors, it's the same story. The Galaxy delivers more natural colors and sharpness, while the Motorola leans too heavily on post-processing sharpening. For front camera video, both devices can record 1080p at 30 FPS. Here, the Galaxy keeps delivering better results with more accurate colors, while the Motorola continues to struggle with inconsistent exposure.
So now let's test out the audio on both of these devices. We'll start off with Samsung. What do we think? How do I sound? There's a little bit of cars and traffic going on around. It's kind of busy out here. And now the Motorola. What do we think? Does it sound better than Samsung or not? Let's talk about it.
As you heard, while the Galaxy's noise cancellation leaves a lot to be desired, it delivers a clearer and louder voice. On the other hand, Motorola's audio sounds overly processed and muffled.
We've come to zoom, which is always an interesting category. Let's see which one of these gives us a more detailed image.
As a quick reminder, neither of these phones have dedicated zoom lenses. At 2x zoom, both photos look pretty similar, though the Galaxy retains just a tiny bit more detail. At 4x zoom, the differences are almost non-existent, with both photos looking virtually the same. The Motorola maxes out at 6x zoom, while the Galaxy can go up to 10 times. However, at 10 times, neither photo has enough detail to make a meaningful difference.
Now let's take a look at a macro photo.
The Galaxy comes equipped with a 2-megapixel macro lens, while Motorola traded its macro lens for an improved ultra-wide this year. As seen in this photo taken at the same distance, the Galaxy takes the win, delivering better results thanks to its dedicated macro lens.
Low light conditions can be very challenging, so let's see which one of these handles the circumstances better.
With the wide lens, neither the Galaxy nor the Moto deliver standout photos, as both struggle with a very limited dynamic range. Switching over to the wide-angle lens, things unfortunately go from bad to worse. Both photos show even less dynamic range, resulting in blurry and noisy images that fail to impress. Alright, let's do a quick recap and reveal the winner, though you might already have a guess. Our scoring system is weighted by category importance, giving higher percentages to popular areas like wide, ultra-wide, portrait, and video, while assigning lower percentages to less prominent categories like audio, zoom, and macro. For example, in wide lens photos, the Galaxy scored 4 points, with 20% of that contributing 0.8 overall points, and so on across the other categories. After adding everything up, the Samsung Galaxy A16 dominated in almost every single category except ultra-wide, where the Motorola surprisingly performed better. So the title of the best camera between these two devices goes to the Galaxy A16. Under the hood, our Samsung unit is powered by an Exynos 1330 chipset, while the Motorola packs a Unisoc T760. Both devices we tested come with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. Additionally, Samsung offers 4GB, 6GB, or 8GB of RAM options, while Motorola only provides 4 or 8GB variants. For storage, both phones are available in 128 or 256GB versions, though availability depends on the market. Both phones also support micro SD expansion. The Galaxy A16 runs One UI 6.1 based on Android 14. Samsung is promising 6 years of OS and security updates, which is a first in this price category. The Moto G35 runs Hello UI based on Android 14, which is very close to AOSP. Motorola offers only 2 years of OS updates and 3 years of security updates, which is pretty limited. For a more detailed look at the connectivity specs, head over to our website versus.com. You'll find the link in the description. Now let's dive into a real-world performance test using some games and video editors. First, we tested Grid Auto Sport, which is locked at 30 FPS. The Galaxy managed to hit 30 FPS most of the time, with occasional dips to 23 FPS and a maximum temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. The Motorola performed slightly better, maintaining a stable 30 FPS throughout while also peaking at 37 degrees Celsius. Next, we launched Wuthering Waves and cranked the graphics settings to the max. The results, as expected, were far from promising, with both phones lagging noticeably even at the menu. The Galaxy managed about 15 FPS at the start, but dropped as low as 7 FPS after 15 minutes of gameplay, hitting a maximum temperature of 45 degrees Celsius. Motorola started slightly better at around 20 FPS, but after just 10 minutes, it also dipped to about 7 FPS before crashing entirely, though it kept a cooler maximum temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. Moving on, we created a 3-minute 4K video and rendered it at 4K 30 FPS in multiple video editors. In Adobe Rush, the Moto G35 came out on top, finishing the task in 8 minutes and 3 seconds, while the Galaxy A16 lagged significantly behind, completing it in 12 minutes and 13 seconds. In InShot, the Motorola once again rendered the video the fastest, finishing in 10 minutes and 38 seconds. This time though, Samsung was closer behind. Lastly, in CapCut, the Galaxy took the lead, rendering the video in 5 minutes and 41 seconds, while the Moto lagged slightly behind. In addition to testing real-world scenarios, we also ran some benchmarks. In Geekbench 6, the Galaxy performed better in single-core tests, but the Motorola pulled ahead in multi-core. In 3D Mark's Wildlife Extreme stress test, both phones underperformed, delivering very similar results, with the Motorola having a slight edge over the Galaxy. In Antutu, both devices performed very similarly, with the Motorola once again scoring slightly higher than the Galaxy A16. All in all, both phones handle everyday tasks like web browsing and casual gaming with ease. They also come with features like support for Google Gemini. That said, you'll definitely notice slightly longer loading times, some choppy animations, and constant app refreshing. Let's be real, neither phone is built for high-end gaming, so it's important to keep your expectations in check. Now let's talk about the batteries. Both devices are equipped with 5,000 mAh batteries. The Galaxy supports up to 25-watt wired charging, while Motorola maxes out at 18-watt wired charging. Neither phone offers wireless or reverse charging, which isn't surprising for this price range. Ultimately, battery life will vary based on your personal usage, whether it's watching videos, reading, or gaming. Neither of these devices is currently available in the USA. In Europe, the Galaxy A16 is priced at around $180, while the Motorola Moto G35 retails for about $160. Last year's Galaxy A15 was priced at $199, so we do expect the A16 to match that price when it launches in the US. As for the Moto G35, it's somewhat similar to the American Moto G Power 2024. However, the G Power features a MediaTek processor and more RAM, and it's currently priced at $199. Both the Samsung Galaxy A16 and the Motorola Moto G35 offer a lot for their price, but we'd say that the Galaxy has a bit more to bring to the table. It has a good AMOLED screen, surprisingly decent cameras, and the huge benefit of 6 years of software support, something you rarely see in this price range. There's a reason its predecessor, the Galaxy A15, was one of the top 10 best-selling phones in the world and Samsung's most sold model, in case you didn't know that. So we're pretty sure that the Galaxy A16 is set to take that spot again. The Motorola isn't a bad phone at all. It has HDR support and decent speakers, making it a solid choice for media consumption. However, the lack of reliable software support, disappointing cameras, and the downgrade from last year's Snapdragon processor to a Unisoc chip is a bit of a letdown. Please let us know in the comments which of these devices you choose based on your personal usage. Are you Team Samsung or Team Motorola? And before you go, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, as we're always testing out new devices to help you make the best choice. Links to all of the devices mentioned in the video can be found in the description below. We'll see you in our next video, and until then, take care.